The prayers of the righteous avails much. As we carry out acting wisely, the prayers of the righteous avails much. As we earnestly pursue doing justice, the prayers of the righteous avails much. So it is the prayers of the righteous that avails much, according to James 3. But we also see in the Old Testament, which I shall read in just one second, that is the fasting of the righteous that brings God's glory. The prayers of a righteous avails much, but the fasting of the righteous brings God's glory. I'm going to read Isaiah 58. I'm going to read Isaiah 58, 6 and 8. And in its fuller, if I were to read all that we typically read when we are fasting, there's a section before that. I'm going to start right in the middle of that. We typically would start with, is this the fast that I have called? I'm not going to start there. I'm going to start at verse 6. And I'm going to go on to 8. And then there's a part in 8 that supports this idea that the prayer, that the fasting of the righteous brings God's glory. So the righteous people, when they fast, we bring God's glory. Hear ye the word of the Lord coming, starting in verse 6. Here is the sort of fast that I want. It's the word of the Lord speaking. Here is the fast that I want. One that releases the unjust, releasing the unjustly who are bound, untying the thongs of the yoke, letting the oppressed go free, breaking every yoke, sharing your food with the hungry, taking the homeless and the poor into your house, clothing the naked when you see them, and fulfilling your duty to your kinsmen. This was the fast that the Lord wanted. And it's not that we're not supposed to fast and abstaining from food, but this way of life living, this way of righteousness, this way of justice must accompany our fasting. We must be releasing those who are bound, breaking chains of injustice. We must be getting rid of exploitation. We must be letting the oppressed go free, breaking yokes, sharing food with the hungry, clothing the naked, housing the homeless, and fulfilling our duties to our family, to our kinsmen, one to another. And then in verse 8, it says, once we've done all this, he didn't say not to fast, but don't fast and not do this part too, is what the point he was making. Now verse 8 says, then your light will burst forth like the morning, and then your new skin will quickly grow over your wounds. And then, this is the part right here, then your righteousness will precede you. The point he was making right here is if you're only fasting and you're only living right according to certain parts of the law, but then you're doing all these things to people, you are being unjust to people. You are exploiting people. You are oppressing people. You are holding people at unrighteous levels of debt. Yeah, you won't let them go free. You're watching hungry people go about and doing nothing about it. You're seeing naked people and doing nothing about it. You're not taking care of those who are in need. You're ignoring the needs of your family. You are being greedy. Your righteousness cannot precede you. The effects of your fasting the effects of your fasting cannot wipe out these other things that you are doing that are not righteous and just. So the Lord says in verse 8, then the light will burst forth like the new morning, and then your righteousness will precede you, and then the Lord's glory will follow you. After these things, your righteousness will precede you, and Adonai's glory will follow you. These acts of righteousness must accompany a lifestyle of fasting and prayer. We will not get to the place where our prayers are powerful and where the Lord's glory follows us when we are not pressing in to righteousness according to the word of the Lord, for the fast that he has called, and for the way of justice that he has called. us to be. And it is not just us, it is a governmental system that we as the church should be laying the foundation. It should be proceeding. We should be going out with it, along with our fasting and praying. This part of our righteousness should be proceeding. And the Lord's glory shall follow.